So if you have kids and you're watching this, you probably know what this is. This is that game called Jenga. But, fun game by the way. What does Jenga have to do with muscle building, protein intake, and sarcopenia? Well, let's find out. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Ed DeBoo, physical therapist out of Integrated Physical Therapy in Bellingham, Washington. So I see a lot of older clients and a loss of function is a big deal, right? And so I talk heavily about strength training and protein intake as it relates to sarcopenia. But what exactly is sarcopenia and what can we do to minimize the effects of it, especially as we start to get older? So first of all, for those of you who don't know how to play Jenga, quick instructions. You play in teams, I'm by myself, but you pull out a block and you put it on top and you take turns, right? And you place it back on top again. So you're never at a net loss. And the idea is that as it gets taller, it's going to get more unstable. And if it's your turn, you pull a brick out and if it all comes crashing down, then you yell Jenga and you're a loser and the other person wins. It's not a big surprise that as we get older, one of the things that starts to happen is we start to lose muscle mass. We're not as strong as we were in our 25s and 30s. That natural decreasing of strength as we get older is called sarcopenia, or basically a lack of flesh or a lack of muscle as we get older. So what we want to do is minimize the effects of sarcopenia so that we can stay strong and viable, hopefully throughout the lifespan. Sure, not as strong as we were when we were 30, but still be able to do the things that we want to do. First, we need to take a trip down physiology lane, and we're going to talk about anabolism and catabolism, which is basically the building of muscle and the breaking down of muscle, which is where the Jenga comes in. So the normal process of muscle is we're constantly remodeling and constantly repairing injured muscle. Same thing, you get a cut, you burn yourself, you burn your tongue, we're constantly regenerating. Same thing about osteoblast and osteoclast, which is referring to bone breakdown and bone buildup. When we start to break down more than we build up, that's when we start getting into trouble, like osteopenia, osteoporosis, or softening of the bones or wasting away of the bone. So let's pretend this Jenga represents a healthy muscle in the body. And as we start to get older, fair enough, we start to lose a little bit of that muscle. Starts to get a little bit weaker. So we start basically pulling out bricks. Well, we know how this is going to turn out, because if we keep pulling bricks out and we don't replace them, pretty soon we're going to be at a loss, and guess what? It's not going to take much, and this whole thing is going to come crashing down. Putting this back together is not nearly as fun as knocking it down, by the way. So think of things that we can do to basically put bricks back into our muscle so that we're not going to prematurely call Jenga and have our muscle collapse. Two things we're going to talk about: resistance training and appropriate protein intake. Both of those things will then put bricks back on. So remember, the natural process of aging is we're going to lose some bricks in our Jenga wall of muscle, right? Now, if I weight train, resistance training. Now remember, resistance training can look like a lot of different things. And I've made some videos, and I'm going to put some links right up here to specific upper body and lower body strengthening exercises that you can do, very easily adaptable. You can do them today. You don't need a lot of equipment. You can do it right here at home. So the idea is that by weight training, we can build back. And then what that means is we're putting back some of those bricks that are falling out so that we're making our Jenga wall a bit stronger. The next thing we have to do is make sure that we have adequate levels of protein. We sometimes think of protein shakes for bodybuilders and people who lift a lot of heavy weights, but that's not necessarily always the case. Sure, if you're watching this and you do a lot of weight training, yeah, you may need extra protein as well too. But the important thing is that as we get older and we're just not as hungry as we used to be, chances are we are not getting as much protein as we should. But Ed, how do I know how much protein I'm supposed to get? Well, if you go to the Association for Sarcopenia, they recommend 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per day per kilogram of body weight. Now I know we don't use kilogram here, so it's going to be some heavy math. So here we go. Time for some heavy lifting with math. So in this example, they weigh 100 pounds. We're going to divide it by 2.2, and that gives us 45.5. Basically, let's just call it 45 kilograms. So now we know that it's 45 kilograms, so it's 1 to 1.5. So we're going to take that and we're going to times that by 1.5. So we have our range of between 45 and 68 grams of protein per day for an older adult. If you're finding the video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, and ding, turn on your notification so you never miss another one of our videos. If you want to go next level and help support the channel, there's a PayPal link in the description below. Anything helps, and thank you in advance for those that have been regularly contributing to the channel. It means a lot, thank you. So that answers the question of how much protein. Now here's the key. The body can only absorb so much protein at one given time. So in a perfect scenario, we're spreading out that 45 to 68 grams of protein equally throughout the day. Sources of protein, if you're a meat eater, chicken, tuna, eggs, milk, yogurt, those are all things. And what's nice is you can look at the back of the cart and it'll tell you exactly how much protein. This is what I recommend to my clients. Before you go supplementing protein into your diet, first just get an idea of organically how much you eat during the course of the day. So just keep track. It's amazing. We become creatures of habit and we end up eating the same things over and over again. Once you have an idea of how much you eat in the day, then figure out approximately how much protein you're already automatically, organically getting in your diet. See if it comes anywhere close to that 45 to 68 range. For example, if you weighed 100 pounds. If not, then you realize that you need to supplement it. A whey protein shake, yogurt, tuna, like we talked about, there's multiple ways of getting that extra protein in. But the most important thing is that we combine the protein with the strength training. So you have to make sure that you are stimulating the muscle enough, which actually breaks it down, and then you are putting bricks back in the wall by proper recovery, sleep, and protein intake in order for that muscle to come back a little bit stronger. Otherwise, we can assume that with each passing year, we're getting weaker and weaker, and it's just going to make functional activity that much harder. So we got a lot covered in this video. We talked about what Jenga was, for those of you who don't know what Jenga is. We talked about how to play it. We talked about how muscle breaks down, which is a natural process, but what also builds back up again. And as we get older with sarcopenia, it breaks down a little bit faster than it builds up, but we can slow it down by proper protein intake and resistance training. All right, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. And remember, keep that Jenga going. Now I gotta pick it up.